It's so nice to see you. I have a special treat for you tonight. I have not only an old friend, but and he's not only Santa Claus, but he's I know I shouldn't be so impressed by that still, knowing you as long as I have Samuel, but I'm so impressed by that. But we will get to that later in the call. I would like to start with, please, 10-year-old Samuel. Can you please
And you
tell me about 10-year-old Samuel? Dreams, hopes.
sure? Let's give it a little timeline. That would make it 1959. So we're in the great part of the 50s. I was a rather chubby, smart, only child living in Erie, Pennsylvania, which is not the most splendid place on earth, and in a very, I guess I would describe us, the family, as being the pagans in the neighborhood. Everybody was very devout Catholic on Wednesdays, on Sundays. And so we kind of stood out because, instead of the Buick or a Pontiac, my parents drove a white Porsche Speedster.
Well, what did your parents do for a living? That's so funny.
Um, my parents owned beauty salons. Yeah, and my mother did a daily household hints radio show, and that's where my love of radio and my future career all blossomed from, was being exposed at that early age, right around 10, uh, to the world of radio and records, I guess you would say. My father was a very talented hairdresser. If you've ever heard of fantasy hairstyles,
I have, that's really familiar. Why is that so familiar?
well, it was very predominant in the 50s and early 60s. And it was all these wild hairdos that you couldn't wear out anywhere, right? They were just for show. One of the ones he did had a spiraling mirrored thing in the top of it. Anyway, he won the world supreme fantasy hairstyling competition uh, in Toronto right around that year, probably the year after, probably about 1960. So if you can imagine, Erie, very blue collar town. We lived between Hammer Mill Paper and General Electric. Uh, and
Sounds
we
very
were,
American. Did you ever see the show A Christmas Movie? The little boy that wanted a BB gun really badly. It's a classic Christmas movie. He wanted a BB gun. It reminds me of that. Like that's how I'm picturing little 10-year-old Chris.
yeah. So you just called me Chris.
Samuel,
So
gosh, you
we,
guys
but we,
ignore it if I call him Chris throughout the call. You will understand later.
yeah, you will understand later. There is a story behind it.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, that was what happened in my childhood, and it was formative, absolutely formative. Uh, I did end up doing radio as I wanted to from that age, and that's where the Chris comes from.
Okay, so
I know.
how did you get, well, Rebecca says a Christmas story. Yeah, it was a Christmas. Thank you, Rebecca. So this is going to be really hard not using people's nicknames on this call. So how did you get from, was it a smooth trip from 10 years old to, did you go to college? Did you go straight into radio? How did that all happen?
Shortly after age 10, my parents split up, and so I was raised the rest of the time with my mom. Uh, my dad had a very tragic life and ended up a hopeless alcoholic.
Hmm.
So things went down pretty fast from there. Uh, but what happened was my mother remarried. And right out of high school, my best friend and I got on an airplane 4 days after we graduated from high school and went to live in Los Angeles.
Did you have like, I'm going to be a superstar, I'm going to work in radio? Did you have dreams, or were you just like, let's go see what life holds?
Well, it was more pragmatic than that. Neither of us were going to get any college funding from our parents. And at that time in California, if you established residency, tuition was paid for.
Oh,
So that was our plan. We were going to move to California, which we did. And we were there about 6 months. And then, of course, Vietnam happened. And so we were trying to make sure that we could stay in college and that sort of thing. So we went home. So I went into the theater program at Ohio State. I always wanted, I went to 3 high schools in 4 years. The way I learned to make that work was that I got into the school plays wherever I went. So I started acting fairly early, and that helped me bridge that 3 high schools in 4 years situation. And so I went straight in.
wait, let me stop you. Sorry to interrupt, but what were you feeling during all this time? Were you like, how was life to you? Was life this friendly, exciting thing that you jump from thing to thing, or was it a stressful, I'm worried and I have to like do this? I mean, how did you feel in the world while you were navigating all this? Because you didn't seem to specialize. You just seemed to always do the next thing that would get you through, which is a great skill. But how did it feel while you were doing it?
Uh, it was little bit chaotic, a little bit hopeful, but uncertain. So it just, I believed it and loved it so much that I knew it was my place in life. So I guess I always believed it would work out somehow. And it did. At 19, I got my first radio job. So good heavens, that was what I always wanted. And I had it at that age.
Yeah.
So I dove into it with both feet, of course. And
And
combined.
I mean, we can't overlook the elephant in the room. I know that we all know as actors that the acting is what counts and that the other things are technical. But your voice, I mean, wow. I mean, was it always as resonant when you were younger as it is now? Because I've heard you narrating audiobooks and it's unique. I mean, it's you're not going to hear that sound anywhere else.
Yeah, it was just a gift from the gods, so to speak. I guess I've said this before. When they made this particular model and sent it down, they had it prepped to be an audiobook narrator because, yeah, the voice was just there, and a knack for doing voices, for imitating things. And so it was like, man, this was made for me.
And
And I
you
just,
got a little bit of success with the radio. Okay, wait, I do need to stop because we had quite a few guests join since we started. So, guys, let me mention, feel free to ask any quirky questions you want throughout the call, and I'll filter them through to Samuel. So honestly, don't feel that it's a one-sided conversation. If you have anything to ask, throw it at me. Quirky only, nothing boring. If boring, do a Google search. But let's get back on the ride. So you achieved a bit of a name when you were in the radio, didn't you? I mean,
I I have the great good fortune to be one of the very, very early underground FM DJs. And I started doing that in Cleveland, Ohio. So yeah, that's a pretty big market, and that set me up really well. There's a great story that goes with how that ended, but it might take too much time to tell. However,
can't you give us the like versions?
oh,
So how did it
okay,
end? You can't
all
tempt
right,
us.
okay, all right. We so underground FM radio, quote, quote, free form radio. It's up to the DJ to choose the music, to set the mood, and carry people for 4 hours. And nobody tells you what you have to play. You decide and make the artistic choices. Well, that was all well and good to us young rebels. The the existing order didn't care for that too much, and they wanted a programming list, when you played, what you played, all that sort of stuff. And we had only been on the air a few months, and we were wildly successful. And they wanted to change. And we all got together as an air team and said, we won't do it. So we staged a walkout, all of us.
This is timely.
Yeah, it is, as a matter
Yeah.
of fact. We had a midnight meeting in the boardroom at the Statler Hilton, and we all refused to go on the air. So they put the sales team on the air to get things through. And then we were just all cut loose. So that's how I ended up in Cincinnati doing radio. And the next question is, I'm asking, was I on WKRP? Yeah, I was.
Wait, is
It's
that a
actually
real thing? Is that the real thing?
Well, the real thing is WKRQ. Now, if you just do the alphabet, you'll see that they're consecutive,
Right.
Q and P. And all the stuff that you saw there, the entrance on, when the show started and everything, that was all really WKRQ in Cincinnati. And I was on there for a period of time. And some people say that I was Johnny Fever, but that really isn't true. But they were around getting the show created at the time, so who knows?
I love that. This is horrible because I'm dying to. Rarely have I ever had a guest where like there's one question I'm so excited to hear about that like I can't. I don't want to skip the call ahead, but you do know that I want to know about Santa schools. So but that's a long way away, isn't it? Like
Yeah, it
that's a
is.
whole lifetime apart because you ended up in like the corporate world for a while, didn't you? How did you stand the corporate world after that exciting life?
I'll happily address that question a little bit later
Okay.
when
Okay.
we get to it.
Okay.
Let's complete the 1970s while we're at it.
Okay. Okay. Back to
So
the 70s.
1970,
Yes.
January 1st, 1970, I joined WEBN in Cincinnati,
Okay.
which was already at that time kind of a legendary station under the tutelage of Frank Wood Jr. And they were a very, very eclectic station and very, very successful, still to this day.
Right.
So it was an honor being a part of that air team for about 4 years. Then people get fired in radio a lot. In case nobody's aware of that, people change
Why?
jobs a lot.
Why?
It could be anything, personality conflicts, bad ratings. Anyway, I left WEBN and I went to work for RCA Records.
Oh, okay.
I kept a weekend show all the time. But I went to work for RCA Records as the regional promotion director for Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, that general area.
And right there, that's off air, more corporate-y, businessy, isn't it? Already.
Yeah, it's, shall we say, the seamy side of the music business, hawking records to radio stations. And currying favor with whoever you can to get the records played.
Did you like it,
Uh,
or did you not feel the comparison to what you had been doing?
it was not something that I ever wanted to do on too very far. No, my goal was always to get a recording studio and make music and release it, which is where it ended up. I
Okay.
finally was able to get the backing to create a recording studio in Greater Cincinnati. And it was a beautiful 24 track, amazing recording studio.
Okay, wait, I
Uh,
need to go back for a minute because I've got a question from Rebecca. What famous artists did you hang out with while at RCA?
oh, many, geez. Some of my favorites, the Guess Who. I love Burton Cummings, and they were just really, really nice people. Styx were very nice people that we hung out a lot together. Um, RCA had a large country uh, group, so I was on the road with Waylon Jennings for almost a whole summer.
So we're talking like nights of debauchery and like,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yes, indeed we are on RCA's dime, which has made it even better. Uh, and one of my favorite people was Dolly Parton. Just such a wonderful person.
We're very pro Dolly on this cup of Joe. We love Dolly.
She deserves every bit of it, I tell you.
Yeah. This I've never met anyone that doesn't love her. Like
Yeah.
I think that's what maybe we should all strive for, to be the person. Obviously, we're not going to get to be the person everyone loves, but to be the person that is like just so ourselves. That, you know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
So the,
So,
the 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 really interesting internal workings on the recording studio thing was that does anybody remember a song from the 70s called I Want to Kiss You All Over?
who did it?
I see someone shaking their head.
Oh,
Uh,
that Rebecca. Yeah.
the, the the group was Exile, and it went to #1 in the world.
Did it? Maybe if I heard it, I would know it. I'm very bad with names.
Remember a group called Blondie?
Oh, yes.
All right. Well, we mixed the Blondie album with Parallel Lines album. So we had, and that went
Serious?
to no,
Did you meet
yeah,
Blondie?
no. Blondie and the group was not there for the mix. It was just Michael Chapman, Peter Coleman, his engineer, and me. The three those were the only three people in the room when all of those songs were mixed. It
I
was an
still think
experience
it's,
of a lifetime.
I know, I was going to say, I still think it's very, very cool. I'm a big Debbie Harry fan.
Yeah, yeah. I was going through YouTube one night, and they said songs that changed music, and one of them was uh, the Parallel Lines album.
Wow.
So made me feel really good. So that kind of takes us to the next level. Rock and roll is a business not without its frailties, maybe we should say. And some of the people who were financially aligned with the studio wrote checks and took out taxes and didn't pay the government their taxes.
They don't like that.
Yeah, they don't like that. And at the end of that, when I finally found that out, I said, time to do something different.
Yeah.
And so at age 30, I gave up all of my years and all of that and went corporate. I went back to school.
How did that
And
feel? Did it not? Because I'm only talking from my experience. I felt my soul melting. Not to be over dramatic at all, but I did not get along in the corporate world. How did it feel?
um, I was actually pretty good at it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I was.
How did you change the creative side? How did you not want to scream at people, especially the rebel that did a walkout? How did you just grit your teeth and
Um, I discovered that I was really good at something that I had no idea that I could possibly be good at because it was far too regimented. Computer programming, really? And it turned out I was really good at it. Uh, so I guess I felt like I needed to make it work. So I did. I went back to school. Finally got my bachelor's, got my master's at 52, and then did postgraduate work after that.
that's
So I
commended.
did.
Now I'm going to stop you because there's another message. Harry says, Samuel, you remind me physically and vocally of my dear friend, the late Carl B., the on-field announcer for the Boston Red Sox for years, among other things. Do you know who
Well,
that is? Carl B.
I I don't.
I can hear the voice though. I can hear Harry, the announcer voice. So that, yeah, that was a good. So okay, sorry. Go ahead, Chris. Samuel.
Uh, yes. So yeah, I went back to school and did all of that, and I got very lucky. I got some terrific jobs. I was sent to live for a year in Sydney, Australia.
Oh wow. Did you like it, Australia?
Oh yeah, I
I can
loved
see
it.
you kind of getting the vibe in Australia. I can see you living in Australia.
It was the experience of a lifetime, and I remain friends with those people to this day. They're very, very congenial, wonderful people. Uh, so that was one of the little things that happened to me in the corporate life that was very positive.
Yeah.
But then I guess it probably part of the reason that I did well in corporate was that I could make a presentation. I wasn't afraid to stand up in front of people and talk. And so where that led me was emerging technology. So pretty much the remainder of my career, that was all I did. My last project, I was doing AI stuff before I retired.
The word that we avoid at all costs.
Yeah. Well, it was very primitive stuff, but
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I was dabbling in that. So, and I very happily closed out my corporate career. Um, I
Was it like a
made good money.
momentous, this is it, I'm not doing it anymore? Or was it a slow trickle off of what you were doing?
Um, no, I got downsized for the fifth time at age 64. And I just said, I've had enough of it. I'm going to retire. I can. It's within my scope to be able to do so. I'm going to do it. And I had always had in my plan, not always, but for a while, I had in my plan to become Santa.
Okay, that's what I was. Okay, not that I've been like chomping at the bit because I've got to hear these stories, and I don't want to do any audiobook stuff till after the Santa stuff because that's where we end up here today. So, okay, you've got to tell me about Santa because I am so like the little girl in me that doesn't quite believe he doesn't exist. I never really kind of bought into it. And also the pictures of the Santa school. I'm just like, I have to hear the whole thing from beginning to end.
Okay, I was working for Capital One, and one of the things I did for them was I was on a lot of committees, and they sent me to Detroit to go to an emerging technologies conference. Now I had worked for IBM for years on the road. I should know far better than to rent a car in Detroit, not knowing where I was going. And it was just enough before cell phones really got super wonderful. So there was no GPS or anything, but I got in late and I rented a car. Now I said, why would you do this? You have no idea where you're going. I did finally make it to where I was going after seeing several seamy neighborhoods.
Planes, trains, and automobiles. That's what
Yeah.
it's.
So at the end of the conference, I'm faced with, well, I've got a bloomin' rental car that has to be returned so I can catch my 6 o'clock flight or 6 a.m. flight. So I had to leave very, very early to return the rental car, which I did. Got on the bus. We were going back to the terminal. There was one other person on the bus. So I said, hey, what you doing in Detroit? Oh, I'm visiting my dad. Really? Your dad lives in Detroit? No, my dad lives in Florida. Oh, what's your dad doing in Detroit? He's a Santa Claus. He's up here for the holidays. I said, wow, really? And we got to his stop, and he stood up and he was getting ready to get off, and he turned around and looked at me and said, you know, you could do that. And I went, really?
Like, seriously, just when you said that, your eyes twinkle. Like, you are a Santa Claus.
And then in that moment, I looked away, and when I looked back to say something to him, he was gone. I'm sure he ducked out when I looked the other way, but it was kind of dramatic. Possibly. So I said, well, I kept thinking about it all the way home. And I said, I'll tell Nancy about it, my significant other at the time. And she'll say, absolutely not. She'll throw up on my shoes and say, forget it. She didn't. She went, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Really? So I shined up to the idea. And the first thing I did was I created an online version called Visit Santa so that you could do video chats with Santa like we're doing today and record it and give them as gifts. It was wildly unsuccessful. So I said, well, after I retire, I'm just going to do it the straight away. So the first thing I did was go to Santa school. Yes, there are Santa schools. There are several of them. I've been to 3. The most elaborate, wonderful one being the CH Howard School in Midland, Michigan.
Was that the one you showed pictures of? Was that the one I saw I've never seen anything like that. It was like being in a wonderland.
Yes. So this is a small town in Michigan, right? And every year they have this event where all the Santas come. And what they tell the children is it's Santa's family reunion. There's going to be a lot of guys around who look like him, but he won't be here until the end. So you can free roam and people don't look too weird at you. But we did wonderful things. We rode the Polar Express. There were 800 of us in this particular place. We did a candlelight march through the city singing Christmas carols.
Did you stay friends with anyone that you met at Santa school?
Yeah, I have. Well, I quit doing Santa when COVID happened.
Yeah.
My doctor said, you're immunocompromised. You need to not do
and
this anymore.
Kids carry a lot. But
yeah,
before you quit, I just feel like a little kid that still believes in something, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're like a memory. You're like a memory in so many little kids' hearts and souls that they'll never forget their entire life. That to me is like so meaningful to play that part in the world. I just think it's so meaningful. And I mean, did you not feel that as a human being?
Oh, the feelings of being Santa when they look at you and they believe is so, there's nothing. They told me when I was at the school, they said, you won't know what it's like until you put on the red suit. And once you do, you'll never experience it the same way again. And that was very, very
Did you
true.
not have the suit when you were in the school? Did you buy it after? When did you buy your first suit? Or
I think I might have, but we didn't wear it. We didn't wear the suits to school.
okay.
Okay. So I decided to go, pardon me. I decided to go sort of the standard route, mall Santa. But it was so incredible because, for instance, in one day, in 1 hour, I had the experience of my youngest and my oldest guest. My youngest guest was 2 days old.
Oh, can you tell I'm in a soppy mood already today? That is just lovely.
I mean, holding a 2 day old that they trusted me to do that was wonderful. So I was kind of coming down from that high, and pretty soon this lady wheels a wheelchair into the area. And there's this very elderly gentleman in the wheelchair. She says, "Santa, this is my brother. He's 92 and he's never had a Santa picture." So I got the oldest and the youngest all in the matter of an hour.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know how to describe it. But for instance, this lady and her husband came and they had a little guy, maybe 2. He never had a Santa picture, so she wanted to get a Santa picture. The next year, they show up with an infant and says, "Santa, this is," it was a brother, and we wanted to have the same Santa with our new child. Would you? Yes, I'd love to. And then about 2 years later, they show up, both of the boys and the lady with the baby in her arms. And she says, "Santa, we finally had our daughter and we wanted to have a
They just
picture."
kept trying until they got a girl.
Yep. So, but I mean, and then I knew those kids for a couple, 3 more years after that. And my reckoning, my math is that my average number of photos a year was about 3,000.
Wow.
So somewhere out there, there's about 3,000 times 6, 18,000 pictures out there. And I just know that after I'm gone, there's going to be a family that gets out those pictures and puts them on their mantle and goes, "Remember that?" And so I feel like that's part of my legacy that
It
I
is.
leave
It's a
behind.
massive legacy. It's I was thinking the other day about the people that we remember that, like, a lot of people kind of want a little bit of fame, but everyone's too embarrassed to say they want fame. But I don't think it's fame that people want. But we grow up watching, Elvis and the big news things, the things that shape our lives, Vietnam and the things that shape our lives. And Santa and the pictures with Santa, that's something that it's a tectonic shift in like our lives. It's what's the word I'm looking for? Um Omnipresent. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it's it's a part of our history. And
Hmm.
you're a part of our history. It's a big deal. You're part of our stories, of us bringing our stories to life. Santa is the story we tell ourselves.
And I feel that it has meaning that I don't know how to say it. It's meaningful to me, certainly. Um, and then we get to audiobooks almost. I think we're about there, aren't we?
Yeah, we're at audiobooks. How now we met. Let me just give them a little background. We met because I was new, and I don't think she'll mind me giving her a shout out. Rebecca is here. I was new and I posted on that big group. Um, does anyone want to become something like, you want to become my friends or something? I need an accountability group. And we joined a small group of narrators, and we watched over the years every single one of them just like growing in their careers and becoming established narrators. And there's Rebecca and Samuel and Madeline, and I won't say the others just in case they don't want to be named. Madeline probably didn't either, but I just said her name anyway. But I think when you start narrating, the people that you know at the very beginning, that's why we always say get an accountability partner, because the friendships you form when you're all in it together in the beginning, they kind of stay your friends for life. I mean, they just do. There's nobody else that was like there with us. And so tell us about your audiobook career, Samuel, and how it started. Why did you go by Chris in the rate? I'm so confused about the Chris Samuel
Why
thing.
did I? Okay, there's a story behind it. There's a story behind everything. Right? I I never liked being called Sam. I hated being called Sammy. Uh, and when I was getting ready to go on the air the first time, they said, "What name do you want to use?" I went, "Oh, I can get rid of Sam." And my great grandfather was a very important person in my life, and his name was Christian. So I chose Christian Gray as my
And
air name.
and it's not escaping me that Chris Kringle,
Right?
they're all tying together here.
Yeah, so Christian got shortened to Chris, and that's how I ended up with it. And honestly, until very recently, almost everybody I knew called me Chris. I'm trying to make the change now. Uh, and it's hard for me to get used to it sometimes.
Why are you changing back?
Uh, that that part of my life ended a while ago, and I'm putting it to bed. I have a wonderful new outlook on life right now, and I'm going to go forward with new thoughts and new plans.
That works, actually. I've lived a couple of lives under different names. And I mean, not all joking aside, it really does work. You can become a different person more easily when you switch your name. I've done it several times quite successfully.
Well, going back to my real name was kind of a challenge, but I think I like it.
Yeah.
Funny, a lot of people end up calling me Mr. Samuel.
I like that. So
Yeah,
audiobook. So you did it concurrently with the Santa gig.
I did. And that was the reason that I didn't do this earlier, because at that time I was experimenting with romance titles. And I had my, yeah, well, that was interesting. That was, I've retired now. Gideon Wells was his name. And it's astonishing. I haven't done anything for at least 2 years, if not longer. And those titles still earn.
It's your voice. I mean, come on. Those women that like love those, I'm not saying this, that the very valid genre with those men with the abs on the covers
Right.
sell very well. And you have the voice that they all dream of.
Well, thank you
Like,
for that.
that it's like just hands down.
And they're an interesting audience. You know,
Did you
some of
have
the reviews.
contact with them? I mean, did they like,
Uh, not so much, but I did read the reviews.
oh,
So
see, I don't do that. I don't do that.
uh, I was so disassociated from that. I had to. I had to see how they looked at Gideon, who was a totally fictitious character. Uh, well, actually, he was Abraham Lincoln's Secretary of the Navy, but
I bet that's not who they were picturing.
yeah, no. But you get a lot of
But you were
but
but you're very good. It's all joking aside. You can't just have a deep voice and suddenly become a narrator. You're an actor, and it shows.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the one review that I remember so well, because it shocked me too, was it was a female reviewer, and she said, "He makes my princess parts tingle."
Yuck. But I mean, but you have to understand me. I mean, I do the romances and everything, but I'm kind of a thriller girl. So I'm not really a romancy listener. As a listener,
Right.
I like blood and guts mostly.
Well, and I'm right there with you now. I
Now,
haven't
didn't
done it.
you do a movie, like a TV show or something from one of your books? I want to hear about
Yes,
that.
yes. I got cast in a Discovery Channel series called A Haunting, and they're real hauntings, right? That's at least they're presented that way. Uh, and I played the role of an empath, and it was very enjoyable. And then I was going through the ACX stuff, and I found an audition for a book called Bones in the Basement, and it was the same story.
So
So
it had to
I
be real because it had to
oh
be real.
it happened. I mean, are the ghosts real? I don't know for sure, but
Well, we can hope they are.
we hope they are. Yes. Anyway, well, when she found out that I had done that, she wanted me to narrate her book, Bones in the Basement. And it was my only nonfiction title, quote, nonfiction. Uh, well, maybe it's fiction, who knows? Uh, but I became really good friends with this lady. She just the most wonderful person that you could ever know. So we've maintained our friendship as narrator and writer for a while.
Because I think you showed me the Discovery show. I think I saw it and it was like amazing or something. Can people see it? Can we put the link to it in the notes?
I I tried looking it up the other day for a new friend of mine, and I was unable to get to it. So I don't know.
Oh, Rebecca says she's listened to Bones in the Basement. Excellent listen, that your narration was fantastic. Because this is that type of time of year we want but what's weird to me, what strikes me about you is that all the twists and turns your life has taken, um, like they're all so divergent. I mean, we've got you doing the sexy books, the scary books, the Santa Claus with the kids book, life, and everything is so different, but it's all linked by these weird coincidences. Like we all have forks in our road, but in your life, like the son of Santa that happens to appear out of nowhere suggests you become Santa and then disappears quickly? Hello. The fact your nickname at the radio was Chris and you ended up becoming Chris Kringle. I mean, they're weird, serendipitous coincidences. Do you not find that in your life? Do you believe in that? Do you believe in fate?
Mm, hard question. Um, to some degree, I think we have the ability to alter uh, our course, but there's also part of it that I think is just written into the fabric of the universe. So, yeah, I think some of these things were destined to happen.
Do you ever consider writing a memoir? Because so many people write them, and to be honest, you wouldn't think there was much to put in one, and you've got a ton to put in one.
I've toyed with the idea, but I really don't feel like I can give it the attention that it should have. Uh, I'm really, really loving the narration right now. And I, unlike a lot of people, I only do RS. And I only do RS for a reason.
I'd forgotten about that. You mentioned that before. Um, Tell us about it.
Because of the way those the 10 years, 7 year cycle, those things are going to continue to earn after I'm gone. And if I can get 100 or 200 books out there before I pass, those things will continue to earn. And I want to give that to an animal welfare group, a small one, not a World Wildlife Fund, but more of a regional type of organization that
Can
could
save an
do
actual animal.
that actually save an animal,
Yeah.
and that, even though it's not very much money, that would be significant to that group. So that's why I do RS. I
I
had
love
one
that.
and only one experience with doing a big one for a publisher, a big publisher, and it was a terrible experience for me. And I don't want to go into any more detail than that.
But I think, what you're saying is really, really important, and I really wish I'd love to draw attention to the YouTube audience to what you've just said, because it's so easy to look around us at other people's paths and only see certain paths and think those are the paths to take. And especially when you bring up RS, I don't really think one way or the other, like it's never been a thing to me like don't do RS. Like, if I get a great book that I like, I would do RS in a second. But I know some people are like, oh, you don't want to be an ACX narrator, you don't want to do an RS, you don't want to do this, you don't want to do that. And even with indie writers, I know another narrator challenged a bunch of people recently. She said, don't discount indie writers. You can get a great
No,
portfolio. A lot of the successful writers are indie writers. It's don't take the well-trodden what everyone else is doing path, because there are some very valid paths. You're a respected narrator with a portfolio most people would die for, and nobody would know whether they're RS or not. So if
right.
you guys find an RS book that you like, you could save animals. You could have a legacy or something after you leave with your RS books that are respected, good. And also the other thing about some RS books, I'm doing a book for an indie writer, one of my first writers, and I said to her, I did book one, it wasn't RS. It was when I first started narrating. She's got like 2 other books in the series. I said, I really want to do those books, and it wasn't a good time. I said, let's do them RS. And you work with a writer closely, they give you a time slot, but it's a book that it's my soul yearns for, because I chose it. I'm doing it because I'm
Mhm.
an actress and I love it. And that's a big plus that people don't think about for RS books.
Yes, and I've had very, very good relationships with authors. Um, but my go-to stash right now is with Crossroads. He's got great, great writing from great, great writers that is older stuff that has never seen audio.
And he's nice. He's a good person, isn't he? I've heard really good things about.
Couldn't say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a terrific
What's his
guy.
name? What's his name? Just to give him some love here.
David Wilson,
David Wilson. I've
tremendous.
heard good things.
Love working with him. Anyway, I look down his list and I get to work with great writers like Charles L. Grant, uh, horror writer from the
Yeah.
70s. His big thing was uh, X-Files. He wrote
Oh, I
some of
just
the
did
X.
a book about X-Files. This woman was loved X-Files, and she analyzed the whole thing in the fandom and everything. I know more about X-Files than any human being on Earth. So that's really cool. Really cool. That would appeal to me, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I just picked up a trilogy of his that has never seen audio before, and it was written in the 80s, and it's about AI and androids. And it's a trilogy about how they integrate with society and how they go to war with the human population.
Let me
It
know
ought to
when
be
it's out. Let me know when that's out, okay? Because I want to listen to it.
okay
Okay,
for
let me know
sure.
when that's out. Let me interject with I've got some comments. I've got a question. Oh, and Harry's backing what you said about royalty share. I love royalty share. At 76, I like thinking of 7 years of passive income and the hope I'll still be around to collect it at the end of the 7-year contract. And then Rebecca says, I keep slipping on the name. What is your favorite genre to narrate? Favorite genre to read for fun? What genre have you not narrated that you would like to?
Wow, great question.
Yeah.
Well, horror and psychological thrillers are the things I really love.
Thank
Uh,
you.
I have done a couple. I'm two novels into a historically accurate archaeological adventure series with a sort of a Indiana Jones character that threads it all together. But they are historically accurate to a degree, and they're a lot of fun to do. Uh, let's see.
Do you
Did you ask
watch
me what?
those movies? Like those genres that you love to narrate? Do you like the same kind of movies? Is that your taste in movies as well?
I don't know that that's the case actually, and I'm not sure that it is. I don't think
Well,
it is.
well, that brings us to the second part of Rebecca's question. What about for reading for fun?
So I buy audiobooks for my reading.
Yeah, I do
Uh,
too at this point. Like I can't
so
imagine sitting
yeah,
through a book I'm not going to pay for.
yeah, exactly. Uh, I love almost anything Scott Brick has done. He has fabulous writers, and I've got him stacked up that I haven't listened to yet. So I think I have Jurassic Park or something that I need to listen to. But
And
so
Landon Beach. Have you got Landon Beach's books with Scott?
I don't, but I'm aware of them.
You
And
got to get Landon Beach. He's great. Fabulous.
uh, my, I don't, one of my very, very favorite narrators is a guy that I think we would kind of call the dean of narrators, George Wardell.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He did a book called The Genie and the Golem and the Genie. It's absolutely stunning.
Really?
I couldn't believe it when I listened to this book. The man just did an incredible job. And the
Oh,
story, it was the first novel, it was this lady writer, first novel, and she got all sorts of awards, but the story is phenomenal as well.
I'll check it out.
Please, you will love it. Uh, and if I could ever make something that beautiful out of an audiobook, I would feel like I'd arrived.
Right there, though. Right there. That's a kindred spirit because that's what my favorite narrators, that's what we're chasing. We
Yeah.
have a picture in our mind of what we'd love to accomplish, and it's not how many publishers I have on my roster. Nothing wrong with publishers. If you want me, believe me, I love you all. But what it is if I could do something, if I could touch someone the way this book touched me, if I could achieve
Yes.
that, it's like a
Yes.
high, like you're
Yeah.
chasing it, and like it's the end of the rainbow, and you just have to go a little further.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I feel like I'm on that precipice right now that I could actually do that if I stay focused. Uh, Made the circuit of a few different coaches, and finally, I think I got somebody that's really going to help me out a lot, and so I'm looking forward to working with him. Uh, I think you had him on the show actually,
Who?
uh, Peter Burkroyd.
Oh, he's lovely. Big fan. Big
Yeah,
fan. Yeah, he's lovely. I mean, I'm not, I'd say I'm biased, but I'm not biased because there's so many that I think are just lovely, but for different reasons. And I'm a firm believer in that the coach is as good as your connection to them, and that you
Right.
find different, because I get coaches every year. Every single year I look at what I need to improve, and I go to a coach that I think can, and I have a little budget that's like my coaching budget, because I don't ever want to become stagnant. And I think that's, oh, you and Peter, I can see you guys, I can see you guys really working well
Yeah.
together.
We really hit it off quite well. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. He's going to help me with this trilogy that I'm starting.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. I
I'd like
love,
to make
because can you see, because you're saying you're on the precipice. So then you'll get more and more of those moments, won't you, in the booth where you're like, oh,
right.
right?
I yes, yes. I'm very excited about it. And I think you and I talked a little bit before uh, we started the broadcast, and I told you that I have recently had a wonderful thing happen to me.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, at age almost 74, I met some.
See, I was dying to say, but you don't want to, like, personal and all that. But oh my God. But the thing is, I I told you before the show that I always thought we all see the memes. Oh, when you get older, so and so started when she was such and such age. And it all looks a tiny bit dour and depressing. The way, oh, great, you get to pick up the crumbs when you're over like 40. And but it's not, is it? It's like better. It's better.
Yeah, it really is better,
Yeah.
and I mean that sincerely. It's it's got the sparkle and the magic of a teenage uh, thing, but the certainness of being established and having been around the block a few times.
And
And
none of the
it's
weird insecurity, none of the like, oh, I'm
no,
you don't have to. It's like being a narrator. You've been a narrator for a few years, and you said you had one publishing experience. It's like you don't. It's kind of like that feeling. I can see. I don't even have to mess with that anymore. You're in control of your career and doing what you want to do. Why do you have to be like playing other people's games? And I think that's the difference, isn't it? You don't have to play other people's games anymore.
we definitely, uh, yeah, it's it's a very mature relationship with just I can't the word that I have to use is sparkle. It it still feels sparkly.
So, okay, so we've got the rest of the question for Bex. I'm conscious Rebecca. What genre have you not narrated but would like to?
Hmm. Humor, I think.
Humor.
A funny book, maybe. I don't know what that would be exactly, but I think I might like to try that.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. I always thought I'd be really great at humor, but nobody's ever laughed at any of my jokes, so I think that might be a problem.
You know, like
I
I saw
mean,
on TV this morning, Carl Hyacin was interviewed. If you don't know him as an author, he's a very humorous, topical sort of an author. I could see that could be fun, something like that.
oh, like that guy, Rooney. I loved him.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and like Bill Bryson. I could see you doing a Bill Bryson, but like he's British, but like a Bill Bryson, an American Bill Bryson kind of book. He did that whole like British person in America. Okay, so I've got some very important questions. I want
yeah.
to so we're leaving you at the end of this call at the good part of life and a career you love, honing your talent acquired throughout a lifetime, following the routes, navigating your way at every fork of the road, a little bit of magic thrown in, leading you to being Santa, leading you to every place you've gone. I still just like, I'm never going to forget the Santa's son telling you to become Santa and then disappearing, because I'm sorry. That is like totally, I know what
Yeah.
happened there. Nothing you can say to convince me out of it. But, and then the book, I mean, come on, the haunting book and the movie and the coincidence that I don't believe there are that many coincidences. So we've got you, we're coming up, closing in on a Christmas. You're madly in love just in time for the festive season. Um, you're not going to completely retire the suit, are you? I mean, you'll find a way to dress up as Santa sometime, just maybe at a cocktail party or something.
They're still in the closet, the
Okay, good.
suits.
Okay, so you gotta wear the suit sometime. Maybe go back to the online thing. It's a different world now. It's a
It
digital world after COVID.
it will it will happen naturally at some point. There are some grandchildren involved with my new lady friend, so there may be some of that.
Um, um, Rebecca says you need to do a Santa Christmas book.
Yeah, if I could find one, I sure would. I think that'd be a great idea.
I think that'd be fun. Okay, so the question I ask everyone, if I if you could leave the studio, the YouTube audience that's going to be watching this in 60, 70 years from now, with even just one thing they take away from this call, a piece of advice, words of wisdom, what would you like them to remember from this call?
Well, wisdom of the ages, follow your heart.
I like that. And that's what you've done, isn't it? The forks in the road, that's what you've done. And you've ended up with your heart madly in love.
It, yeah, in the end, it's it's what makes all the difference in the world. It really does. Corporate was one thing, all of it was one thing, but being Santa, that's different. That's really, really special.
Yeah.
And I talked with a friend recently who hates his job. It's trivial, it's meaningless. It made me think about my life. And I said, the real meaning came with Santa and narration. Those are the things that were really meaningful, that touched other people. Now, I guess the other stuff did to a degree, but on a personal level, that those were the real meaningful things.
Because
And those
Santa was part of the story, and now
those
you're telling the stories.
those things came from the heart.
Yeah.
That's I know it's simple, it's trivial, it's something you hear all the time, follow your heart, but yeah, it's
Mm,
that simple, but it's that
I don't
real.
think it's trivial. Simple and trivial are two different things.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's profound.
I hope so.
It's everything. And this call was everything. I thank you so much for taking the time to join me, Samuel. And uh, it was long overdue. And I can say on my behalf, the friends you make when you start this career, hold them close. Because
Yes.
at the end of the day, the friends and Rebecca and Samuel were two of my earliest friends in this journey. And you'll walk away from this with a couple of books in your portfolio, make be a little bit of money, experience, you'll be a better person. You will never, ever forget your friends, ever.
And I really have to say that that is so incredibly true. You know, you and I've never been together in the same room. Bex and I've never been together in the same room. But when I had the bad patch, which happened to me earlier this year, you guys were there.
Because you're a friend.
Mhm.
Yeah. And we were heart and soul, we were there for you. And Madeline as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
meant the world to me.
Oh. Oh, well, this call meant the world to me. Thank you so much. You guys, now I'm getting all teary. I keep doing this the second call in a row I've cried on. And so Thank you so much, Samuel. Mwah! And your news has made everyone's Christmas. That's all we needed this Christmas. Wonderful news. So,
Love you, Danielle. Thank you.
love you too. Mwah! Bye, 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 everyone.
Bye.